It has been 20 years since I came across something that utterly changed my life. And this had nothing to do with diet. 20 years ago, I discovered the root of why life wasn't working for me. And at that time, things looked perfect. I had a great husband. I had a new 1-year-old daughter, and I owned a dance studio that was growing. Things seemed really good on the outside, but on the inside, things were crumbling for me. All of the defense mechanisms that I've come up with throughout my entire life were starting to crash around me. Now, a year earlier, I had started watching a show on TV called Starting Over, and this was one of the first reality shows on TV. It was on NBC, and it was on during the day, so I caught it on maternity leave. And it was about a group of women who lived in a house together for about 3 months, and they were coached by life coaches. Now, go back 20 years ago, you probably had never even heard of what a life coach was. But as I was watching that show and nursing my daughter, I realized that I had a lot of things underneath the surface that were happening that I was sort of stuffing down and burying. And like I said, about a year later, with the 1-year-old daughter and the business and the husband and everything looking good, all of those things started to crumble. So I hired, one of the coaches on that show was Rhonda Britton, and she is a pioneering life coach, one of the first life coaches in the world. And she certainly was the first on TV over in the UK and then back here in the US. And she really started this industry strong. So I hired one of her life coaches and worked with her and discovered that the root of everything that wasn't working for me anymore, that had been working on my life, but now these mechanisms weren't working, was fear. Now, if you asked me, I would have told you, no, I'm not afraid of things. I am a really strong person. I tackle things head on. But this wasn't about the type of fear that we think about. It's about the emotional fears. So for me, primarily, when I worked with my life coach, I discovered that my core trigger was that I did not want to be seen as weak. That was like death to me. And so I did all these things that weren't necessarily authentic to me, but they proved to the world that I was strong and tried to prove to myself that I was strong. And when those things started to collapse, I fell into my core negative feeling. And my core negative feeling was failure at that time. And I was just in my files recently. I'm still a fearless living life coach. That's the next part of the story is after I got coached, I spent the next 2 years becoming a coach. And now I train the fearless living life coaches and work directly with Rhonda Britton to work on her curriculum for that training. And what I found recently was one of the letters that was an assignment for me when I was working with my very first Fearless Living life coach back in 2005. So this gives a little flavor of what I was going through at the time. And I'm just wondering, I'm going to read it to you. And it's a little bit vulnerable. No one's seen this but my life coach in 20 years. And I'm just wondering if any of this resonates for you. Okay. It starts out, it's a letter to my wheel of fear. Dear weak and failure, we've been together for a long time, but it's time to cut the ties that bind. You haven't done me any favors by sticking around for so long. I remember when you first came into my life. My mom and dad had recently split, and I had a new baby brother. I was glad my parents were divorcing because they fought so much. So it was decades before I realized how much the results of the divorce really affected me. At this time, my mom went back to school so she could earn a better wage to support us. We were on welfare and we didn't have any money. We moved and I had to switch schools. The kids at the new school teased me about my out-of-style clothing. Side note, this was when bell-bottoms were going out of style and Calvin Klein jeans were coming in. I was in the Brady Bunch bell-bottoms. I couldn't win them over with cool toys because we had only the basics. One Christmas during those first few years after the divorce, I asked for a new blanket and was happy to get it. I already felt like an outcast, and showing any vulnerability or weakness would give my classmates another foothold. I hated that school. I tried not to tell my mom about what was happening. She had enough to worry about, trying to get through her schooling and make ends meet. I couldn't burden her with my feelings, so I kept up the charade of being strong. The only one I could open up to was my dog, Freckles. When I wasn't at school, I tried to keep the household running smoothly. I took care of my brother, cooked many meals, did laundry, and even helped with household finances. I was probably too young to do those things, but I was happy to help. It felt good to be treated like an adult. During this period of my life, many areas of my self-esteem took a beating, yet I still had a positive self-image when it came to my intelligence. I was a straight-A student in most of my subjects. After all, I had to keep my grades up, so someday I would be able to go to college on scholarships. In my mind, failure at school was not an option. My classmates didn't like me, but at least my teachers did. Plus, my mom was proud of my accomplishments. This was when you and I became absolutely entangled. We'll never know if you really protected me from more taunting from my peers. However, I am able to acknowledge you for keeping me at the top of my game in academics. When high school came, I was able to partially break free from you. I was in a new school district again and well accepted by my classmates. My awkward age was over, we were doing a little bit better financially, and I could soon work to buy my own clothes. I was still out to prove, though, that I wasn't this dumb blonde, and I was still working my butt off to get those college scholarships. But I felt good about myself overall. It was a fun time in my life. College was decent, although I didn't really have a chance to enjoy the experience. I was only there to graduate with honors in the shortest amount of time possible. I needed to keep my student loans in check and get a great job when I finished. Between classes, studying, working, and internships, there was no time for fun or exploring my interests. Right around graduation, all hell broke loose. The economy had nosedived, and there weren't many jobs to be found. My mom's new husband kicked me out of the house. My father died. After all those years of hard work, I was essentially a failure. And I didn't have anyone to give me the emotional support I needed. I mean, what kind of person can't get a job with my credentials? What kind of person is betrayed by her own mother? I'll tell you what kind. The kind that ends up living in an old trailer that doesn't have plumbing when the temperature falls below freezing. I was no better than when I was the new girl at school getting free hot lunches, wearing hand-me-down clothing, and helping budget our food stamp allowance. Only now I had my own student loans to pay off. So I fell into my old childhood habits, trying not to let the others see chinks in my armor. I'm fine, I'm smart, you can't break me. Yet I ended up breaking myself. I let you run my life so that 14 years later, I was living a different kind of lie. I'm absolutely secure financially and in my marriage, yet I was living every day feeling that I can't show any weakness. I couldn't cry in front of anyone. I couldn't ask for help. Not only couldn't I be seen as weak, but I couldn't be less than perfect. I couldn't let myself make mistakes. I needed to be flawless so that I wouldn't feel like a failure. My past experiences had proven that my best wasn't good enough to bring me my security or success. So I had to push harder and do more. The result was that I went into school mode and behaved like I was being graded. I was trying everything I could do to avoid being seen as that failure. I spent my energy trying to keep up the facade that I'm invulnerable, intelligent, beautiful, and successful. I spent my time pursuing the impossible, perfection. I was to the point where I couldn't enjoy what life had to offer. I was buried alive by my own expectations of what I needed to be. Life wasn't fun. My accomplishments were not enough. Never enough. The worst part was the distinct possibility of passing on these traits to my own daughter, or having her think that I didn't love her because I'd become an emotionless automaton, or having her believe that everything else I did in pursuit of perfection was more important than time spent with her. So now it's time for you to leave, because I'm not willing to waste my life by fruitlessly trying to keep you at bay. Being happy is more important to me than being strong or perfect. I'm going to measure my success by finding joy and having enriching life experiences by myself and with my family and my friends. I don't need to please anyone but myself, and I don't need to excel and be extraordinary. I just need to find myself and be myself, and that will be my legacy. I know that you will still be in the shadows, and that's okay. When you come around, I'll know that it's time for me to reevaluate myself or my relationship to someone or something in my life. I will make a choice to focus on my commitments and my intentions instead of spinning out of control. From this point forward, I'll be aware of you and I'll acknowledge you. I will learn from you, but I am no longer willing to encourage you. Yours truly, Jennifer Joy. So that was the point when I set down my wheel of fear. Now, again, fear is a pattern that is in our neurobiology, and so it's not something we ever get rid of, but it's something that we can master. And like I said in that last little bit, when we see it, instead of letting it run us, instead of it letting me try to prove myself all the time, I can pivot and make a different choice. And I can choose something that is true to me, true to my values, true to the life that I want to live. So I want to share that with you. Again, if anything like this letter resonated for you, or maybe you have your own patterns that you've been dealing with for decades, then I am inviting you to join me on a live stream that we're going to do, a very special live stream. That almost sounds like the 80s, right? A very special episode. We're going to do a very special live stream where I walk you through the wheel of fear so that you can discover your own core trigger. Again, mine is weak, and your core negative feeling. So if you're interested, go ahead and put in the comments wheel of fear, and we'll make sure if we've got enough interest to take on that live stream, and I'll be there to support you in absolutely changing your life and breaking up with your wheel of fear.